and reset with Maria.
And Gina, she forgot her name.
I forgot my name.
Typical for the conversation we're going to have today.
I know. Oh, my goodness. I wanted, as always, we want to say thank you for the support that you've given us. Seriously, it is amazing the impact that we are making because of you. You're helping us. We're very, very excited because we were actually talking, and we'll get into the meat of the show, how we have our own nonprofit, which we are extremely excited.
Oh, yeah.
But I was talking to Jessica too. I said we have an incredible board that have said yes to us. So many unbelievable people. And Jessica was saying, were you surprised? We are out there in the community. People see how serious we are about the work that we're doing here. And it is a blessing.
And we're the agents for change.
Yes, agents for change in healthcare. You're taking a look at that.
Yes, and it really is true. It's the energy that we're putting out that people are just attracted to. And it's really overwhelming, and we're getting such support, even possibly from the Archdiocese too. So we're excited. We're excited about everything. So we will be talking a lot about that.
Yeah, with that in mind, obviously you know that we want to bring information that is valuable to you and or your family members or your friends, and we're always trying to figure out what should we educate you on.
Right.
And today we've Gina will make the introduction to our guest.
Yay, I get to speak now. So Jessica Flores is here with us, and she is the Director of Diversity, right? Did I say that right?
Diversity specialist.
She's not director, she's diversity specialist.
Director sounds better.
Director sounds better, for the Alzheimer's Association. And we're going to learn a bunch of great tips about how to see, if it runs in the family, how to look for it, and how to, the 10 ways to protect yourself.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, because I know that you were a guest on Maria's show.
On the Spanish show, Reflexiones con Maria.
But we have sometimes a different clientele watching this one, so why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure, of course. Thank you for having me again. My name is Jessica Flores. I'm a diversity specialist for the Alzheimer's Association, the Hudson Valley Chapter, and we serve a little over 144,000 families throughout the Hudson Valley that have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or other type of dementias.
So what do you do? How do you help the families? What is it?
Well, we have so many support services. We have memory cafes. We work a lot with the families to connect them with resources that perhaps they're not aware that there are, they qualify for. We have 2 social workers in our office that meet with families to provide them a care plan if they've received a diagnosis or not. So we work a lot with the families.
Yeah, it's a very scary disease.
Yeah.
I know personally, many of you that follow know that my mom was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, which was it's a horrible type of dementia. But I also know, I have so many friends. I was just talking to you and I said, Gina?
No, thank God I haven't been touched. My family has not been touched with that disease.
Yeah. But we also have so many friends that I know that are dealing with that, with their parents getting dementia. And I know we were joking around, like, can I get this? Because my mom had it. My grandma started to get dementia, but it was at a later age. So I'm hopeful, because she was in her 90s when, 90 years old when she started getting dementia. So
when do you see it? When do you see it usually? When does it come out?
Well, really, there are several risk factors to the disease. So the number 1 risk factor is age. So anyone 65 and older is at a higher risk. However, we don't want to disregard age, because we do have a lot of people that have been diagnosed in their 40s and 50s, and these are people that have an earlier onset of the disease. So that's the number 1 risk factor, but we also have the incidence in the family. So if you've had a father, a mother, a brother, or a sister with the disease, you are at a higher risk of, it puts you in this category of having a risk. And if you have more family members, you have a higher risk as well. Personally, my dad had the disease. I know his mother had some sort of dementia. I'm not sure which one, because I was very young when she passed away. two of his brothers, and I learned that one of his brothers recently is also developing the same signs that my father had. So, now I know the incidence is there, right?
And how old are they?
Oh, my uncle, he's probably in his 70s now.
And
but my
Still
father,
young.
right,
70s,
still
young.
young. My father was diagnosed at 62. He was still healthy. He was young, and he lived 10 years with that disease. And it visually just varies through the individual. Some people live 8 to 10. Other people live up to 20 years with the disease as well.
Is it the portion of the disease that you come in and out, or are you gone?
Well, no, really, it's just once you're diagnosed with the disease, it's, there's no stopping it. It's really a progressive and fatal disease of the brain. So many people really, they have this myth that first, number one, it's only a disease of the old, and that's not true. It's not a normal process of aging. A lot of people say, oh, you're just getting older, that's normal. It's not. There's a big difference with the normal aging process and having dementia. Two totally different things.
Can you talk about that? Because we joke around, I have a senior moment.
I'm
like,
yeah.
Gina,
she's been over a lot more, just so you know.
Today I go, I had a senior moment, what is the difference between just forgetting something quickly or forgetting that you drove to the office and
Is that the sign?
I remember that I'm coming to the office and when I get to the office.
Right. So really what it's normal is, we get older. As we get older, our skin changes, our hair color changes. So that's normal that things age within us, and our brain ages with us as well. So the normal, changes that you can see in your memory has to do with the speed of how you react to things and how you answer to things. As you get older, that's normal that you may answer at a slower pace, right? So you process things a little bit slower. However, dementia is, it affects you entirely, your memory, your thinking, your reasoning, your personality, and ultimately your function, your complete function of your body. So, for example, not remembering the name of an acquaintance is something that's normal, right? But not remembering and recognizing your family members, that's beyond. There's a difference between not remembering an acquaintance and someone you love and you're familiar with. So there's a big difference between, the normal aging process and having dementia.
We're reading the book, right? And it makes me think of things like this. So we're reading the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Okay.
And, and how your mind, you can actually cure yourself. And you think, what if you reprogram yourself now? You know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing it out there, but you never know.
We're into this book.
We're into the subconscious
mind. We highly recommend it. It's called the Power of the Subconscious Mind by Murphy. I'm blocking the first name.
Daniel?
I don't remember the first name, but it's an amazing book about the power of your brain and
how it feels.
We've been on this kick for a while now of the subconscious. For example, I really believe that a lot of the success that we're having has to do with the way that we believe. That we are the agent of change for healthcare. Starts with the belief in we are creating, in the energy that is coming to us from everywhere is because we are the agent of change of healthcare, and there's no doubt in our minds. So the book talks about how we are,
yourself.
You can sort of reprogram your mind, but this will be difficult because I think at this point you start to lose your mind, right? So it will be hard to reprogram it.
Right. I don't think there's, once you have the disease, there's no way of reprogramming. Unfortunately, if it was that simple. However, I also believe that if you keep, you think and you visualize it, you'll be able to do it, right? But what are we doing to keep our mind healthy? That's also important, right?
Let's talk about that.
So that's like my favorite flyer, because it talks about the 10 ways to love our brain. And so the Alzheimer's Association had an international conference back in July in LA, and it hosted approximately 6,000 scientists from 57 countries, and they all came together to present, their research and, what's up in science when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. And it's certainly an exciting time when it comes to the research. But one thing that was really highlighted was lifestyle factors. And so basically everything that you see in that flyer is, eat healthy, exercise, sleep, make sure you have at least 7 hours of sleep.
Don't the books. Get the books.
Don't smoke or drink excessively, and it's pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
For most people, if it was only that simple. But so one of the scientists there said that and I'm going to read this, and it says that according to one researcher, doing all of this can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia by 60%.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And that is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing, especially if you've had a loved one that has this disease. It's mind-blowing to know that you can avoid this.
You think
60%. You can
actually
prevent
do all
it
of
by
this
60%.
I think you're good.
No, my only problem when I said, I do live this
a healthy
life,
yes, she does.
but I don't sleep enough. I sleep 5 hours the most, and I'm always. I need to talk to somebody about this. It's a kind of doctor, a neurologist, I guess, because I want to understand. I want to understand because I don't feel tired. I don't feel like I need more time. And when I sleep 7 hours, I feel tired. And so that's the only one that concerns me.
Right.
But living this lifestyle, as many of you that are out there could relate, it is tough. It is tough. And that's why if we want to go into explaining why this is growing and is a growing disease, is people are not living that lifestyle.
Right, they're not taking care of themselves. Unfortunately, the Latino community and the African American community are the two ethnic groups that are at a higher risk of developing this disease, and it's because we have higher rates of diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular diseases that puts any individual in a risk of developing, other diseases such as dementia. So it's really important that we take a good look at that, and obviously living a healthy lifestyle, helps so much. And now science is actually backing it up. Yeah. So it's time to pay attention to that.
And you're saying also that women.
Women, yes. So also 2 out of 3 people that are living with Alzheimer's disease are women. And
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So the findings show that women that participate in the workforce, so that's a good thing, have a slower memory decline when they get older. And that's because, your mind is being stimulated and you have the social and financial benefits of being in the workforce. So being a working person is good. We promote that, so ladies, get to it. And also they found that early onset Alzheimer's looks different in men and women. And women we have better verbal memory, which may help us in the early stages of the disease. The only downside or the only downfall of this is that it could mask the early signs of the disease, and you may be diagnosed at a later stage.
So, okay, let me ask you now. You get diagnosed, like what do you do?
Right, so you get diagnosed, this is why we develop like the 10 warning signs, and to teach people what to look for. Because when you know what to look for, you can say, maybe something else is going on. Let's go to the doctor. Let's speak with him. Let's get this treated and see what's going on.
How do you treat them?
Well, basically, there's really no medicine that could treat or slow down the progression. But once you have a diagnosis, and we also encourage to have a correct diagnosis. Most people get diagnosed and they say, they come up to me and they say, oh, my mom got diagnosed with age-related dementia. And that is really scary that a doctor would say age-related dementia, because there's no such thing. Dementia is not normal. It's not a normal part of the aging process. So we know that and dementia is an incomplete diagnosis. You want to know what type of dementia so that you can, plan accordingly and know what to look for and what to expect. Yeah. So once you receive a diagnosis, really, you want to plan. You want to have everything in order. You're financially, legally. You want to find that person that will, take your wishes and that will help you through this process. you have to, the person
It's kind of
themselves.
scary. It's like almost like a death sentence.
Yeah.
Even if you're
It's a
not
slow
dead,
death.
it's just you're dead.
It's
you don't remember
definitely
it.
a long journey that no one
Wants
goes
to,
into it willingly. You're just kind of forced to go into this journey once you get this disease, but also the caregiver, So we encourage the person to really learn about the disease so they can learn how to communicate, how to deal with difficult behaviors, so that the person itself can know that it's important to plan. And there are support services. There are many programs that we have for people that are in the early stage. We have, Sunday socials, we have music programs, we have art programs. We have social events where the caregiver could bring their loved one and they can participate with other people that have the same experience and know that they're not alone. They create their own network of resources, their own network of help. So it's definitely a good thing to learn about the disease, even if it's not in your family, even if it's, to know about it. I think the knowledge is power. Whatever we can learn is a good thing. So.
Is a neurologist the one that would diagnose this?
Right, so you initially would go to your primary care physician, and you would, we always encourage someone to take notes of the changes that you're seeing in your loved one. So then when you go to the doctor, you give him this list and you let them know what they're experiencing. They will, they have this test and they ask them several questions to see the level. And depending on what they see, they will recommend that you see a neurologist, a neuropsychiatrist, and so on.
So there's no blood test or anything like that. This is all motor skills and verbal and memory.
So we're hoping that in the future there would be
some kind of gene test.
Going back to when you get diagnosed, I know when my mom got diagnosed, she used to travel to New York from the Dominican Republic. And when we got the diagnosis, the last time that she came here, we prepared. We said, okay, this is the last time that she was going to be coming here. And we ended up having 40 people, all the grandkids, my brothers, all of us got together and spent 3 days in my house with her. And it was sad, but there was so much beauty because we knew that would be the last memory that we have of her in New York. And we took family pictures. She actually said, am I dying? She said, because people travel, my nephews and nieces came from all over from Florida to come and spend time with her. But then we said, okay, we need to prepare in the Dominican Republic with the people. So we started figuring out how to support her. So everything was how do we close her chapter with dignity? How do we support her? How do we prepare financially in every way to be able to care for her? And that was important. And the other thing is that I know that it takes a lot on the family members when you're taking care of someone like that, because your patient gets tested by them constantly. I remember getting phone calls from my mom, I'm not in my apartment, you don't understand, you need to help me. And this was in the middle of the night, you need to help me out. So you have to develop a lot of patience. And I see some of my friends that have a mother, let's say, or a father that is going through the disease, and it's almost like they're fighting them. And why can't you do this? You used to do this, or you forgot again. We have to.
No patience.
Yeah, we have to be, and that is difficult. And the stress on the individual that is taking care, but also on the poor person that has been diagnosed with the disease. Exactly. It saddens me to see, because they get abused too.
They do. It's not only, it doesn't affect only the person, it affects the family itself. So it's important that they both learn about the disease so they can learn how to communicate with each other and really, how to learn how to deal with those difficult behaviors, because they are difficult and they're never going to be easy. They're only going to worsen. So how can we learn about it so we have that patience? At the end of the day, we're all human. we're going to get, you know, our patients is going to be tested.
Right.
But how can we join their reality? Because a lot of caregivers have that problem, joining the person's reality.
I like that.
And they will, you know, they will argue with them. You have caregivers that would say that they're not going to lie to their loved ones, you know, when they're trying to, you know, if they say, oh, the sky is green, no, it's not, it's blue, or whatever you want to say.
Let them
Let them just say, yeah, it's green, it's beautiful. Yeah,
Right.
it's beautiful, great. I know when I visited my dad at the nursing home, and he was, you know, just pacing, walking around the field, and he was just looking, searching for something. So when I approached him, I'm like, oh, hey, Dad, how are you? And he's like, oh, I'm working. And I'm like, oh, really? What are you doing? It's like, I'm looking for gold. My father was a jeweler for 40-something years. And it was surprising that he wouldn't remember my name, but he remembered his boss's name.
Oh, really?
He did. And so he said, oh, Mr. Henry is waiting, you know, he needs this. I said, oh, okay. So my way to bond with my father at that time was to join him in that activity and say, okay, do you mind if I help you? And he said, no, you can help me. I'm like, okay.
Did he know you were his daughter?
No.
He didn't.
But, you know, that was my way of connecting with him at that very moment. So many people forget that even though, you know, they have their episodes, they might not be there, you know, find ways to relate to them, to let them know that they're supported, that they're loved, and that you're there regardless. So it's
And your dad
important.
suffered with this disease for how long?
He lived with this disease for 10 years.
10 years.
10
And then in the
years.
beginning, when did he actually lose all of his senses?
I would say for him, I could say at 67, he was totally.
Wow.
It was very aggressive. So it's very different for every individual. Some people experience it at one degree, others at a different degree. You know, you have some medicine that treats some of the symptoms, and the medicine may help some people, and others it doesn't help at all. So it's very unique for every individual.
So
it's like a fingerprint.
What do you think the cause of this is? Like usually, you know, you have the radiation. Is it the cell phones? Is it, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the cause of this? It's causing this deterioration of the brain.
Alzheimer's disease is really that disease that eludes scientists and researchers because it's kind of like they're looking at a small window and that's all they're looking into. They don't have access to the full house yet, right? You can't enter it. So it gives you insight on lifestyles. So they're looking at lifestyles. Is that the cause that could affect this? Your environment. You know, are you living in a healthy environment? Your stress level. You know, are you taking care of your body, of your mind, of your soul? So they're looking at so many different factors that can affect this disease. They can't really pinpoint and say, this is exactly the reason, this is how we're going to treat it, and this is how we're going to stop it.
Right.
So we're hopeful that in the future, we may get some insight on that.
Let me ask you, at that conference where you have people from all over the world, is Alzheimer's like more of a serious illness here that is greater than in other countries, or do they know? Do you know?
Well, the statistics for what we know is we have 5.8 million Americans in the U.S. living with the disease, 50 million worldwide. So that's a lot.
Oh.
Specifically, what country has the most? I don't know. That's a good question. But you know, these statistics are expected to triple by 2050. So imagine 50 million times 3 by 2050. So it's very impactful. Every time, you know, I look at these statistics all the time. Like I know them by heart. You know, every 65 seconds someone is being diagnosed. You know, 82% of people, you know, see that they have some type of memory problem, but only 16% are actually going to the doctor and saying, you know, I have this concern.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference. You know, people really need to understand that it's just so much more than memory loss. Let's look at it, you know, the entire disease and what we can do.
I think it becomes also a decision that is really hard to put your parents in a nursing home because for many, you know, at one point it gets to the point where you really cannot leave them alone, number one, and it's hard to manage the illness from their houses. So when you're choosing a nursing home, like, with somebody with this disease, what should you look for?
Well, just like everything else, you need to be a savvy consumer. You know, you really need to do your research thoroughly. You want to make sure that most places do have like a memory care unit, and they specialize in Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So that is extremely helpful if they do specialize in that. But you know, there are individuals that can't afford that type of care. So that's when, you know, we encourage them to log in. You know, you can look us up in our website or call our 1-800 number, see what education program is available in your community. Call us up, make an appointment with our social workers, talk to them so they could connect you with resources that, you know, you may be provided an aid that can, you know, relieve you from your caregiver duties. You know, you may qualify for that grant for respite care. So there's a lot of things that people need to learn that are available if you can provide that type of care for your loved one.
It's really hard to be the caregiver for a loved one. I know that my father was very, very sick with cancer. Mm-hmm. And actually his body deteriorated and his brain was there.
Right.
I mean, and that was even harder to see, that he realized that he was fading away, that his brain was just sharp as a tack. Right. But, you know, to be able just to care for them, it was very difficult for us, the sisters, to care for them being the daughter. You lose that place as the daughter,
right,
and you become the caregiver. And sometimes if it's affordable, you should definitely find somebody to be able to care for them, so you can still be that loving family member.
Yeah. I know that there's government programs where they are actually paying the family member to take care of, which I think is great, because if you think about it, one of the biggest issues is that the family member will lose the income, because they have to take care of the family member that has the disease. And I know a few cases where this is the case, and they're taking turns, but everyone is being paid, so they're not losing the income. So I think that is great.
I did see that, and that's a good thing, because it affects caregivers, because most caregivers are in what we call the sandwich generation. They are caring for their small children and their elderly parents at the same time. So, you know, the statistics show that 57% of caregivers either had to leave early, go to work, you know, late, or just not go to work at all because they had to caregive for their family member. So it really affects the caregiver and the entire family. So we need to be aware of those type of programs that are available.
Yeah. So let's, if somebody wants to donate for this amazing cause, or get involved, because that's the other thing, you know, you guys need volunteers.
Oh, yes.
I know I recommended already some of the people that I know are dealing with their parents that have the disease, and I know like Myra is very interested in working with the organization. So where can they go and donate, or where can they call and volunteer?
They can call our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-272-3900, or you can go to alz.org/Hudson Valley. And when you call our 1-800 number, you can just let them know you're interested in becoming a volunteer, or if you want to make a donation, who should you address it to and where should it go.
And the same number for someone who has questions.
That number is for even if you want to reach one of us, because the type of work that we do, we're always in the field. So if you want to reach one of us, you leave us a message through there, and then we always get back to you.
So this is the season of giving. So let's make sure that we give for a good cause. Thank you so much. Time flies when you're having fun. So
another perfect.
Another great show, Jessica. Thank you. You were great. Great information. And for you guys, listen. Remember to like us. It is important, and share. That's one thing you can do. This information needs to go everywhere. I'm sure you know people that could use this information. So please share. All right, so we'll see you next Wednesday in Reflect and Reset with Maria
and Gina. She loves to do that.
Bye. Bye-bye.